All right. So we've got our equations. We need to start with balanced equations for these. We've got ammonium nitrate is going to produce N2O in water when it decomposes. So I'm going to balance my equation here. I've got ammonium nitrate. And that is going to produce N2O. And it's going to produce water. And balance this, we need to put a 2 here. So make sure you get that 2 written down. Last week I walked around and a lot of you weren't writing these down, weren't balancing these right. So make sure you get that written down. All right. Now, like I said last week, you can only put moles in these boxes. So only moles in the holes. Okay? So they gave us grams here. I need to convert those grams over to moles. So I'm going to divide by the molar mass, which is 80. Okay. And that's going to end up giving me 0.313 moles. So I'm going to start that off here. This is my dividing line between moles, or between my products and my reactants. So that means over here in the beginning, I haven't started out with any of these things. Then I am going to figure out what my cloud value is. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to go up into the cloud. What operation do I perform? Get into the cloud. What do? I take this and do what by the coefficient? Remember, this has a coefficient here. We just don't write it down because it's 1.
The cloud is just 0.313?
Yep, because this divided by 1 is going to be 0.313. Then when I come back down out of the cloud, I'm going to subtract my reactants and I'm going to add to my products because I'm forming them. When I come down, I multiply my cloud value by my coefficients. Remember, this one is a 1. We just don't write the 1s down. Okay, so 0.313 times 1 is 0.313. And then this one is going to get multiplied by 2. So it's going to be 0.626. So for every one of these I'm going to make one of these and make 2 of these. Okay? So for every 0.313 of these, I'm going to make 0.313 of these and 0.626. This is where the coefficients come into play. All right, I won't have any of this left over. I will have made 0.313 of this and 0.626 of this. They want to know the mass of the water here. So I'm going to take that 0.626 moles of water and I'm going to multiply that by 18.0 grams per 1 mole. This 18 came from the periodic table. It's 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen added together. So I multiply those together and I end up with 11.3 grams of water. Is that making sense? All right, let's try one more. We have acid rain here. For this one, I have SO2 reacting with oxygen and water. and that's going to form sulfuric acid. Make sure you're getting these coefficients written down. All right. Next step is I need to take my grams of SO2 and I need to convert that into moles. So I take my 2.5, I divide it by 64.1. That's 1 sulfur and 2 oxygens off the periodic table added together. So when I do that, I get 0.0390. Remember, you want at least 3 sig figs here. Zeros at the beginning of a number are not significant. So this is not significant, but we need it for a placeholder. So there I have 3 sig figs. My oxygen, they didn't tell me how much, but they did tell me that it was excess. So I'm going to write down XS here. And then this is the dividing line between my reactants and my products. So I'm going to have 0 of this to begin with. I'll use up my reactants in the process, and I'll make products. So when I do that, I'm going to subtract here, and I'm going to add here. So these are my parts that are going to go in to make this on the other side. All right. I'm going to go up and I'm going to form my cloud. Now, when I do this time, when I go up here, I'm going to have to do what to get into my cloud? I have to go up into the cloud. So what operation do I perform? By what? By 2. I'm going to divide by this coefficient. So when I do that, this ends up being 0.0195. Okay. That makes sense? What I just did there? All right. When I come back down out of the cloud, what operation do I perform? Multiply. So I'm going to take this number. I'm going to multiply it by the coefficient. This one doesn't have a coefficient, so we know it to be 1. So we're going to multiply this by its coefficient. And lastly, this by its coefficient. So when I do that, this ends up being 0.0390. This is 0.0195. 0.0390 and 0.0390. So that leaves me with 0 of this, excess of these 2. We don't know how much it is. Tomorrow I'm going to show you how to deal with situations where you're given multiple reactant amounts. Those are called limiting reactants. You got to figure out which one you're going to run out of first. But for today, we're still on excess reactants, which makes life a lot easier for you. All right. Once we're done with that, then we end up having this. This is moles. They wanted to know grams. So we've got to take this value here. That's moles of, oh, shoot, sorry. Let's try that again. H2SO4. And put it into my lovely dimensional analysis. In 1 mole of H2SO4, I have 98.1 grams of H2SO4. Moles cancel. Once I multiply across, I'll have this in grams. I need to have 3 significant figures because that was my amount that they started with, was 3 sig figs. So 8 or 3.83, and that's going to be grams of H2SO4. I think that's all. Yep, that's all the notes I had for these. So I believe you have 10 problems. I'm not mistaken. Now, what I did on the next page here, you can see that I have like a handwriting page that I have handwriting on there. I've taken you step by step, every process along the way to do this homework. You don't have to do anything there, okay? You don't have to write anything on it. But if you're still kind of scratching your head and going, I don't know, this takes you step by step through a problem. And it says, number 1, if you have this, well, the first thing you're going to do is write a balanced equation. Well, I've already done that for you. And the next step is that you are going to place that in your VCA table. So I've showed you how to do that. Then it says, if the reactants are given in grams, convert them to moles. So I've done that, and then I put it in the table. So it's a very step-by-step process that if you're still struggling with these, you can use that as your guide. Okay? And then I think it's 10. Yeah, it's 10 problems for homework. So you've got about a half hour to get those 10 problems done. So if you have questions, just let me know and I'll be happy to come around and help you, okay? You also have your lab that's due today, the one that you did with the rust or the copper. So that's due today. If you have that done, you need to make sure that you get that in the basket before you leave, okay?
Wow, let's work in the lab. Let's work in the lab. Give me another piece of paper.